Hello everyone. Welcome to our Fisheries Board Exam Review. This video aims to help students in passing the board examination for fisheries graduates, formerly known as Licensure Examination for Fisheries Technologists. In this video, we are going to answer and discuss some board exam review questions in aquatic resources and ecology. But before we continue, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell if you like this video, so that you will be updated of our new contents. Okay, let's start. Question number 21. What are hermatypic corals? The options are A. Reef-building corals, B. Large boulders in coral reefs, C. Non-reef-building corals, or D. Soft corals in the reefs. Hermatypic corals usually extract calcium carbonate from seawater to create a hard, durable exoskeleton that protects their soft, sac-like bodies. The correct answer is letter A. Reef-building corals. Corals are sessile animals, having a symbiotic relationship with zooxanthellae, a type of algae. It is a large underwater structure, composed of the skeletons of colonial marine invertebrates, Q28 coral reefs. The term hermatypic, as widely used in the literature of extant and fossil Sclerectinia, includes the confusing generalization of equating reef building which contains zooxanthellae. In course of time, the use of the term diverged into denoting organisms, which are either reef-building, including calcareous rhodophyta, or those that contain zooxanthellae, like soft coral Alcyonaria. Question number 22. Which of the following does not belong to the group? Is it A. Trinuscrutilla, B. Acanthostroplancy, C. Tridacnahegus, or D. Holothuria scabra? Before we answer that, we need to determine first the common or English names and taxonomic group of these organisms. Trinuscrutilla is commonly known as the gracious sea urchin. It is a type of echinoderm, under the class Echinoidea. Crown of thorns sea star is the common name of Acanthostroplancy. It is also an echinoder, under the class Asteroidea. Tridacnahegus common name is true giant clam. It is a mollusk, under the class Bivalvia. It is the largest known bivalve that exists on Earth. White sandfish, scientifically known as Holothuria scabra, is one of the most exploited macroinvertebrates. It is an echinoderm, under the class Holothuroidea. So, going back to the question, the correct answer is C. Tridacnahegus. Among the choices, Tridacnahegus is the only mollusk, while the others are echinoderms. Question number 23. In what phylum do sponges belong? Are they from phylum A. Mollusca, B. Cnidaria or Coelenterata, C. Porphyra, or D. Chordata? The correct answer is C. Phylum Porphyra. The sponges belong to phylum Porphyra. Sponges are simple invertebrate animals that live in aquatic habitats. Species under this phylum have pores and spicules in their body. Although the majority of sponges are marine, some species live in freshwater lakes and streams. They are found in shallow ocean environments, to depths as great as 5 kilometers. All adult sponges are sessile, meaning they live permanently attached to rocks, or other submerged objects, and do not move about on their own. Species under phylum Mollusca are characterized having soft bodies, triploblastic and bilaterally symmetrical and coelomate. They are sluggish invertebrates, with a thin fleshy envelope or mantle, covering the visceral organs. Meanwhile, organisms considered as under phylum Cnidaria have radial symmetry, simple net-like nervous system, and have two different forms that exist: the medusa and the polyp. They reproduce both sexually and asexually. On the other hand, the phylum Chordata comprised the organisms with notochord, pharyngeal gill slits or pouches, hollow dorsal nerve cord, and postanal tail. Question number 24. In what phylum do jellyfishes belong? Is it from A. Phylum Mollusca, B. Phylum Cnidara, C. Phylum Porphyra, or D. Phylum Chordata? As discussed earlier, organisms other phylum Mollusca are soft-bodied, and have shells in their body as protection. Examples include gastropods, such as cowrie and abalone, bivalves, such as giant clams and oysters, and cephalopods, such as octopus and cuttlefish. Cnidarians have stinging cells in their body, as a form of protection. They exist either in medusa, or free-swimming form, or polyp, the sessile form. Examples are the corals, jellyfishes, and sea anemones, among others. Poriferans, such as sponges, have pores and spicules in their bodies, and they are sessile or attached to the substrates. Lastly, chordates such as fish and mammals, have characteristics such as postanal and pharyngeal gill slits, at least once in their life cycle. Going back to the question, the answer is B. Phylum Cnidaria. For our 25th question, which of the following aquatic organisms is a mollusk? A. Conus geographus, B. Penaeus monodon, C. Silicerata, and D. Ponulirus bicolor. The correct answer is A. Conus geographus. The Conus geographus, commonly known as geography cone, is a gastropod under the family Conidae. The incredibly toxic venom of this mollusk is strong enough to paralyze instantly. Considered as the most deadly species of cone snails, its venom is an extraordinary complex mixture of compounds, with medicinal properties. The venom is comprised of conotoxin, a group of neurotoxic peptides, consisting of 10 to 30 amino acid residues, typically have one or more disulfide bonds. Dr. Lord Cruz was one of the first to study the venom of this deadly cone snail, and its potential to cure cancer in the future. Penaeus monodon, or giant tiger shrimp, is known locally as Passion or Shugpo. Silicerata, or mangrove crab, is locally known as alamango. Ponulirus bicolor, commonly known as banded lobster, is locally called as bannigan. Penaeus monodon, Silicerata, and Ponulirus bicolor are crustaceans. For our question number 26, here it is. Generally, female shrimp are larger than male shrimp belonging to the same age group. The sex is determined by looking at the underside of the shrimp, wherein female have blank as the sex organ. Is it A. The licum, B. Ptasma, C. Periopods, or D. Pleopods? The reproductive organ of female shrimp is the A. The licum. Females have close-type thalicum, whereas males have ptasma, which is symmetrical with thin median lobes. During normal times, the licum is hard and the spermatophores cannot go inside the thalicum. That is why mating in shrimp occurs only after molting, wherein the cuticle is still soft, and the sperm can be inserted inside the thalicum of the female. Spawning also occurs at night, and fertilization is external, with females suddenly extruding sperm from the thalicum, as eggs are laid in offshore waters. Periopods are the 5 pairs of legs used for walking by the shrimp, and pleopods are the swimming legs or swimmerets, with 5 pairs in total. The 27th question is: what is the scientific name of giant tiger shrimp? A. Penaeus baname, B. Metapenaeus sensus, C. Penaeus monodon, D. Penaeus indicus. Of course, the correct answer is C. Penaeus monodon. Giant tiger shrimp, or Penaeus monodon, is under the family Peneidae. They have head, tail, 5 pairs of swimming legs or pleopods, and 5 pairs of walking legs, or periopods. A carapace or hard exoskeleton encloses the cephalothorax. They are identified by distinct black and white stripes on their backs and tails. They can reach up to 36 centimeters long, and are sexually dimorphic, with females larger than males. Young giant tiger shrimp are most commonly found in estuaries, lagoons, and mangroves. They can tolerate 2 to 3 parts per trillion salinity levels. Adults, on the other hand, move into deeper waters, and live on rocky or muddy bottoms. They may bury themselves in substrate during the day, emerging to feed at night. They live in waters with temperature ranging 28 to 33 degrees centigrade, and are likely to survive in waters colder than 12 degrees centigrade. The common name for Penaeus vanameae is white leg shrimp. Greasyback shrimp or sand shrimp is scientifically known as Metapenaeus sensis. And Indian white shrimp is Penaeus indicus. Question number 28. How many arms does an octopus have? The options are A. 6, B. 8, C. 10, D. 12. Octopus have 8 arms. Do you know that octopus do not have tentacles? Arms, like those on an octopus, have suction cups the entire length of the limb. On the other hand, tentacles only have suction cups near the end of the limb. Some cephalopods have arms, some have tentacles, and some have both. An example of cephalopods, with both arms and tentacles, is the squid. Squid has 8 arms, and 2 tentacles. Question number 29. What do you call the study of mollusks? A. Malacology. B. Conchology. C. Teuthology. D. Carcinology. The study of mollusks is called A. Malacology. Mollusks is a large and spectacularly diverse group of soft-bodied, invertebrate animals. According to the fossil record, the group originated more than 500 million years ago. Today, mollusks are represented by 7 distinct classes, including the familiar bivalves which comprise the mussels, oysters, and clams. Gastropods comprising of snails and slugs. Polyplacophora or the chitons. Scaphopods, the tusk shells. And cephalopods which include nautilus, octopuses, and squids. Most mollusks, but not all, build a shell for protection. And researchers often use this shell to help identify species. With an estimated 200,000 species living today, mollusks are second in species richness only to arthropods, the group of insects, and crustaceans. They occur worldwide at all depths of the oceans, in freshwater lakes and rivers, and on land. Many species are ecologically, commercially, and culturally important. On the other hand, conchology is the study of shells. Teuthology is the study of squids. And carcinology is the study of crustaceans. Question number 30. What do you call the swimming form of cnidarians? A. Polyp. B. Medusa. C. Carapace. D. Tentacles. The correct answer is B. Medusa. The medusa is one of 2 principal body types, occurring in members of the invertebrate animal phylum Cnidaria. It is the typical form of the jellyfish. The medusoid body is bell, or umbrella-shaped. Hanging downward from the center is a stalk-like structure, the manubrium, bearing the mouth at its tip. The mouth opens into the main body cavity, or enteron, which connects with radial canals extending to the outer rim of the bell. The medusa is a free-swimming form, it moves by rhythmic muscular contractions of the bell, providing a slow propulsive action against the water. The other principal body type of the adult cnidarian is the polyp. It is the stalked, sessile or attached form of cnidarians. Carapace is the exoskeleton or covering of crustaceans. A tentacle is a slender, flexible limb or appendage of some animals, especially around the mouth of an invertebrate. It is used for grasping or moving about, or bearing sense organs. For question number 31, here is the question. Kapis is a bivalve that is commercially harvested for its translucent shell. The shells can be made into handicrafts, such as window pane, chandelier and lamp. The question is, what is its scientific name? A. Tridacnahegus. B. Coronia tritonis. C. Placuna placenta. D. Turbomarmoratus. To find out the answer, we must determine the scientific names of other choices. The common name of Tridacnahegus is true giant clam. The common name of Coronia tritonis is giant tridon, or trumpet tridon. The scientific name of giant green turban, or green snail is Turbomarmoratus. And the scientific name of Coppice is Placuna placenta. Commonly known as window pane shell, Placuna placenta is a large animal with a thin translucent, thin, and circular shell. It is about 10 to 18 centimeters long, and commonly encountered in seagrass meadows, lagoons, protected bays and mangroves. They are known to be filter feeders. This clam is collected, and in some places it is cultured. Its lustrous shells are made into souvenirs, while the meat is consumed as food. The animal is also said to produce tiny pearls, which are lead-colored and irregularly shaped. Question number 32. What do you call the phenomenon wherein physiologically stressed corals expel their mutualistic zooxanthellae, resulting to the whitening of the coral, and perhaps its death? Is it A. Black band disease? B. Symbiosis? C. Bleaching? Or D. Commensalism? And the answer is, it's C. Bleaching. Coral bleaching happens when corals lose their vibrant colors and turn white. Coral are bright and colorful because of microscopic algae called zooxanthellae. The zooxanthellae live within the coral in a mutually beneficial relationship, each helping the other survive. But when the ocean becomes hotter, the coral stresses out and expels the algae. As the algae leaves, the coral fades until it looks like it's been bleached. If the temperature stays high, the coral won't let the algae back, and the coral will die. In terms of black band disease, it is primarily caused by a bacteria called Firmicutes coralliticum. It was first described in the early 1970s as a black band moving on the surface of star corals, the monstasteri, and brain corals, the diploria. It destroys live tissue as it moves over the surface of the colonies, leaving behind bare white skeleton. Symbiosis, on the other hand, is a term describing any relationship or interaction between two dissimilar organisms. The specific kind of symbiosis depends on whether either or both organisms benefit from the relationship. The symbiotic relationship between an anemone and a clownfish is a classic example of two organisms benefiting the other. The anemone provides the clownfish with protection and shelter, while the clownfish provides the anemone nutrients in the form of waste, while also scaring off potential predator. Meanwhile, commensalism is a relationship between two organisms, in which one organism benefits, and one is unaffected. The difference between commensalism and other types of symbiosis is that in commensalism, the second party or host remains unaffected. Question number 33. Termed as the rainforests of the sea, it is one of the important aquatic ecosystems, and considered as the most productive. What is this? A. Kelp forests. B. Coral reefs. C. Seagrass beds. D. Mangrove swamps. The answer is B. Coral reefs. Coral reefs are often called the tropical rainforests of the sea, for their astounding richness of life. Due to their structural complexity, corals are one of the most productive ecosystems on Earth, providing important services to mankind, including fisheries, coastal protection, medicines, recreation, and tourism. Coral reefs are formed over the course of thousands of years, as limestone skeletons constructed by corals accumulate, and form a structural base for living corals. Scientists estimate, reefs provide a home for millions of species. From brightly colored tropical fish to sea cucumbers, which produce anti-cancer compounds. Here is our 34th question. Clownfishes and sea anemone have mutualistic relationship. What provides the immunity of the clownfish, not to be stung by the stinging cells of sea anemone? A. They are friends and know each other very well. B. Clownfish have highly colored body. C. There is a mucus coating in the body of clownfish. And D. Anemone do not release nematocysts when a clownfish is around. And the answer is, it's C. There is a mucus coating in the body of clownfish. Of the more than 1,000 anemone species that live in the ocean, only 10 species coexist with the 26 species of tropical clownfish. Within these species, only select pairs of anemone and clownfish are compatible. Together, they are obligatory symbionts, which means that each species is highly dependent on the other for survival. Symbiosis between the two species is achieved in a variety of ways, including a mutual protection from predators, an exchange of nutrients, and the clownfish's tolerance of anemone nematocysts. In order to live among the anemone, the clownfish protect themselves from nematocyst strikes. Nematocysts are harpoon-like stingers on the anemone's tentacles, used to capture prey and ward off predators. While other fish approach the anemone as a potential food source, the clownfish does not even try to eat the nutrient-rich tentacles. This avoids triggering an attack from the anemone. On the off chance the clownfish is struck, it is protected by a thick mucus layer. The clownfish is born with a mucus layer that is already thicker than average, but as it grows, it can become 3 to 4 times thicker than on other fish. It may even incorporate some mucus from the anemone itself. Question number 35. What do you call the free-swimming larvae of most marine snails, tusk shells, and bivalves? A. Veliger. B. Odontophore. C. Periostracum. D. Trochophore. The correct answer is A. Veliger. Veliger is larvatypical of certain mollusks, such as marine snails and bivalves, and a few freshwater bivalves. The veliger develops from the trochophore larva, and has large, ciliated lobes called velum. The velum forms from the ciliary ring, known as prototroch, a characteristic of the trochophore stage. The velum is used for swimming, feeding, and gas exchange, and it is resorbed or lost as the mollusk metamorphoses into its adult stage. In addition, the mollusk begins to develop a foot and shell during the veliger stage. Odontophore is a special structure found in the mouth of most mollusks, except bivalves. It consists of several muscles, and a cartilage which supports a chitinous radula, or lingual ribbon, armed with teeth. The periostracum is the outermost proteinaceous layer of the shell of bivalves. It is secreted by the inner surface of the outer mantle fold at the mantle margin. Trochophore is a small, translucent, free-swimming larva characteristic of marine annelids and most groups of mollusks. Trochophores are spherical or pear-shaped, and are girdled by a ring-minute hair-like structures, called cilia, and the prototroch, that enables them to swim. For question number 36. Which of the following groups are not technically referred to as seaweeds? A. Acrophyta. B. Chlorophyta. C. Rhodophyta. D. Cyanophyta. Before we answer this, we need to define what are seaweeds. Seaweeds are marine macroalgae, or plant-like organisms that generally live attached to rock or other hard substrate in coastal areas. They belong to 3 different groups. Phylum Acrophyta, or the brown algae. Phylum Rhodophyta, or the red algae. And phylum Chlorophyta, or the green algae. These algal group algae does not only differ in pigmentation, but also in many ultrastructural and biochemical features, including photosynthetic pigments, storage compounds, composition of cell walls, presence or absence of flagella, and the fine structure of the chloroplasts. Seaweeds are generally anchored to the sea bottom, or other solid structures by root-like holdfasts. There are a number of seaweed species are edible, and many are also of commercial importance to humans. Some are used as fertilizers or as sources of polysaccharides. The basic component of a seaweed include stipe, blade, and holdfast. Thallus is the term used to describe the complete body of the seaweed. So, going back to the question of which is not a seaweed. The answer is D. Cyanophyta. Cyanophyta or cyanobacteria, known as blue-green algae, is a group of microscopic organisms. It has long called algae, because it is similar to other algae in terms of habitat and way of photosynthesis. Nonetheless, cyanophyta are prokaryotes and so much more closely related to bacteria. Cyanophyta is a group consisting of 1,500 species with its main characteristic bluish-green. The question for item number 37 goes like this. Which of the following is a seagrass species? Is it A. Rhizophora apiculata, B. Suneracia alba, C. Anhalus acoroides, D. Caulerpa racemosa? The correct answer is C. Anhalus acoroides. Anhalus acoroides is a seagrass species with a wide distribution, from tropical areas in Africa to the Pacific Islands. It grows well in sheltered bays or areas sheltered by mangroves. It may form dense meadows as the dominant seagrass, or small clumps among other seagrasses. It is locally known as bara bara. Rhizophora apiculata is a mangrove species. It is locally known as Vaqua hanglalaki. Meanwhile, Suneracia alba, another mangrove species, is locally known as Pagatpat. On the other hand, Caulerpa racemosa is a seaweed species. It is known locally as Lato. Question number 38. The following are the byproducts of photosynthesis, except A. Sugar, B. Oxygen, C. Carbon dioxide, D. All of these. The answer is C. Carbon dioxide. Plants do not produce carbon dioxide, instead, they need it to produce food. Like all living things, plants need energy to carry out the processes that keep them alive. They get this energy from food they create. Plants use sunlight to convert water and carbon dioxide into glucose, a type of sugar, and oxygen in a process called photosynthesis. In short, plants need water and carbon dioxide to produce sugar and oxygen. For question number 39. Which of the following lakes is the smallest? A. Laguna de Bay, B. Lake Lanao, C. Taal Lake, and D. Lake Minot. There are 23 lakes in the Philippines, with areas more than 100 hectares. Among these lakes, the top 5 biggest are Laguna de Bay between Laguna and Rizal is the largest, with an area of about 90,000 hectares. The second largest is Lake Lanao in Lanao del Sur, with an area of 34,700 hectares. The third largest is Taal Lake in Batangas, with an area of 23,700 hectares. The fourth largest is Lake Minot between Agusan del Norte and Surigao del Norte, with an area of 14,000 hectares. And Lake Nayang found in Mindoro Oriental, is the fifth largest lake, with an area of 11,000 hectares. So, the smallest lake among the choices is letter D. Lake Minot. The last question in this episode goes like this. Which of the following is an example of a lotic ecosystem? A. Laguna de Bay. B. Pasig River. C. Agusan Marsh. D. Mangrove swamps. To answer that, we must define what lotic system is. A lotic ecosystem can be any kind of moving water, such as a creek, brook, river, spring, channel or stream. Lotic ecosystems have two main zones: the rapids and the pools. Rapid zones are the areas where the water is fast enough to keep the bottom clear of materials, while pool zones are deeper areas of water where the currents are slower and silt builds up. On the other hand, the opposite of a lotic ecosystem is lentic ecosystem. Lentic ecosystem entails a body of standing water, ranging from ditches, seeps, ponds, seasonal pools, basin marshes, and lakes. Deeper waters, such as lakes, may have layers of ecosystems, influenced by light. Ponds, due to their having more light penetration, are able to support a diverse range of water plants. So, an example of a lotic ecosystem is B. Pasig River. That's it for today. If you have any questions or clarifications, you may comment it in the comment section, and we will try to get back to you as soon as we could.